The wind moved softly across the open plain, lifting dust that glowed gold in the last light. Jonah Reed finished closing the heavy gate at the southern edge of his ranch and checked the chain out of habit. He liked things fastened, counted, and right. That was the way his father had taught him. When the gate clicked, he heard a wagon rattle to a stop near the cottonwoods. The team was tired, necks bowed, flanks dark with the day's work. A young woman sat alone on the wagon seat, wrapped in a worn blue shawl. Her hair was pulled back, her face pale from road dust and worry. She held the reins as if she had been holding on for miles, not only to the leather but to hope. "Evening," Jonah said, voice steady. "You look like you've come far." She climbed down carefully, boots touching earth as though the ground might tilt. "My name is Clara Whitlow," she said. Her voice had that thin edge that comes after long miles and little sleep. "I need help. Please, I will give you everything." The last word broke, and she pressed her lips together to keep from saying more too fast. Then she added in a quiet way, "I do not bring trouble. I bring truth." Jonah stayed a step back to give her room. He had seen many kinds of tired in his life. This was the kind that could make a person fall if someone hurried them. "You'll have water and a hot meal," he said. "We can talk after you rest a little." He took the bridle of the near horse, led the team to shade, and set a bucket under the pump. The horses drank with slow trust, ears twitching at small flies. He guided the wagon near the porch, pushed the door open, and waved her into the kitchen where the iron stove still held the day's warmth. Clara sat at the table and wrapped both hands around a tin cup like it was a small fire. She ate bread and beans in careful bites, as if teaching her hands to be calm again. When the color came back to her cheeks, she set the cup down and reached into a canvas bag. From it she drew a small tin box and a worn ledger tied with twine. She set both on the table with care, like setting down a sleeping child. "There is a secret I must tell," she said, looking not at the papers but at Jonah. "It is not mine alone. It belongs to this land. If I speak it, some people may be angry. If I hide it, the wrong folks will win." Jonah poured coffee and waited. He had a quiet that made other people's thoughts rise to the surface. She untied the twine and opened the ledger. Neat numbers filled the pages, steady as fence posts in a straight line. Then she opened the tin box. Inside lay a folded paper with a brittle edge, its seal faded but still there. "My father ran the Whitlow freight line," she said. "He hauled for ranches and towns. During the hard drought 8 years ago, he carried seed and feed when no grass would grow. He gave time to pay because he believed rain would come. It did. Most men paid. One did not. He said the debt was forgiven, that my father signed a second paper that cleared him. But my father never did." Jonah's thumb tapped the coffee mug once. He remembered the drought year. He remembered how men changed when the earth cracked and wind pressed dust into every doorframe. He also remembered which names were spoken with respect and which made a room go quiet. "The man who did not pay was Mr. Bram Crowell," Clara continued. "He has the biggest herd south of here. He sits on the bank board and speaks as if law begins in his coat pocket. He says his books are clean. But this ledger shows 24 loads of feed and seed. It lists dates, amounts, and the interest he agreed to in a handshake with witnesses. And this paper—" She pushed the folded deed toward Jonah. "This paper says that if he did not pay by the spring after the rains returned, the small spring at the south end of Reed Ranch would be shared for 10 years between Crowell and Whitlow. It is signed by your father, Mr. Reed. My father thought shared water would keep people alive and give them time to start again. When he tried to set it proper at the courthouse, Crowell laughed at his ledger and called the deed a fake." Jonah eased the paper open. He knew his father's writing at once, the slow, careful hand of a man who mended both fences and words with patience. The description of the land was exact. An old cedar post, a flat rock like a door, a crooked willow above a clear pool. He could see those things in his mind as plainly as if he stood there. "Why bring this here?" he asked. "The deed names my father. Folks may say you came to take my water." Clara clasped her hands until the knuckles turned white, then made herself let go. 2 weeks ago, my cousin's husband, who once filed water maps, found a duplicate of this deed rolled behind a drawer. He kept copies of everything. The duplicate matches this one in my box. If I walk into town alone, Mr. Crowell will call me a liar and make it stick. If I come to you and you choose to help, it becomes a matter of honor, not a trick. I cannot force you. I can only tell the truth. I will give you everything I own, this wagon, the team, the small savings I carry, if you will stand with the truth." Jonah saw the red rope mark across her palm, a straight line of fresh hurt from holding reins over too many miles. He saw dust settled in the weave of her shawl. He also saw courage sitting upright in a thin body that had not slept. "You have been driving without rest," he said softly. "I could not stop," she answered. At the last relay station, 2 men asked if I was headed to Reed Ranch. I told them I was going north. They turned south at the junction.
"I think they were testing me."
"I do not know if they will come here. I only know I had to arrive before the deed was buried again by noise." He nodded once, not in fear but in decision. "You'll sleep here tonight," he said. "At dawn we will ride to the South Spring and read the ground like scripture, slow and careful. If this paper matches what the land shows, we will take both copies to the courthouse when it opens. No shouting, no threats, only facts." Her shoulders dropped as if a load had eased. She looked at him with tired relief that made her eyes shine. "Thank you," she whispered. "I am not here to take. I am here to set right." The evening settled into gentle sounds, the tick of the stove, the soft creak of the house, the leaves of the cottonwoods gossiping with the breeze. Jonah checked the latch, set a fresh bucket at the door, and showed her the small room off the kitchen. Before he left, she drew a slow breath and stopped him with one more truth. "There is something harder," she said. "I fear it most. The year after the drought, when your family's barn burned, people called it lightning. Others whispered other things. My father went pale when anyone spoke of that night. After he passed, I found a letter in his desk. He wrote that he went to warn your father that Crowell planned to file false papers. While they talked, Father knocked over a lantern. He tried to stamp it out, but the straw caught. Your father dragged him out and said, 'We will call it lightning. We will keep our neighbors clean.' My father never forgave himself. He kept his silence to protect your father's mercy. I do not know how to carry this. If I speak it, I stain my father. If I hide it, I stain yours." Jonah stood very still, the way a person stands when a door in the heart opens to an old room. The barn fire had been a quiet ache for years. He pictured his father, Ezra Reed, hauling a man through smoke, and then choosing kinder words so no house would be torn apart by blame. He looked at Clara, who had ridden dusty miles to place a hard truth in his hands. "You did right to tell me," he said at last. "A lie cannot make anyone strong. We will carry this truth with care. We will use it to heal, not to harm." Clara pressed her fingers to her mouth and nodded, grateful and afraid at the same time. He brought her a folded quilt his mother had pieced long ago, set it at the foot of the bed, and drew the curtain. He did not ask more that night. He believed in rest as a kind of wisdom. Outside, the sky deepened to a clean dark. The first stars pricked through. The cottonwoods whispered. Somewhere far off, a coyote called, soft and lonely, and the call faded into the wide space. Jonah sat a while on the porch with the tin box beside him. He read the deed again under lamplight and then closed it carefully. He thought of his father's hand, strong and patient, and the way a good man leaves clear tracks. He thought of Mr. Crowell's smooth voice and how smooth things often hide rough truth. He thought of the South Spring, the cedar post, the flat rock like a door, the willow that leaned over the water like a question. He pictured morning sun on ripples and dragonflies stitching bright lines above the pool. He felt steady inside, not angry, not fearful, steady. Before dawn he rose, lit the stove, and put on coffee. He saddled 2 horses while the horizon turned from charcoal to pearl. When he knocked softly on the kitchen door, Clara was already awake, the ledger and deed wrapped in her shawl and tied under her coat. She looked stronger after sleep, though the long road still showed in her eyes. He handed her a light biscuit and a slice of apple, and she ate without rush, standing by the open door to feel the cool air. Dawn opened like a soft curtain. The air was cool and clear. Jonah and Clara rode side by side along the fence line, the grass silver with dew. Birds called from the willow trees, and the sky slowly turned from gray to pale gold. The tin box rested in Clara's bag, wrapped in her shawl so the papers would stay flat and safe. She kept one hand near it from habit, not fear. Jonah looked ahead and measured the day in his mind. He liked to plan the next 3 steps: ride, present the deed, let the truth speak. He believed that if a thing was real in the field, it should be real in the courthouse. They reached the town while shopkeepers were lifting awnings and sweeping porches. A boy rolled a barrel from a delivery wagon and waved. The courthouse doors were already open to the hallway, where the morning sun made long, bright lines on the floor. The registrar, A thin man with round glasses looked up with a faint smile. He knew Jonah. He did not yet know Clara. "Morning," Jonah said. "We would like to file and verify a deed." "Of course," the registrar answered. "Let us take a careful look." Clara set the tin box on the counter, opened it, and placed both papers down. She also put the ledger beside them. She did it slowly, as if placing a bridge across a little stream. The registrar adjusted his glasses and read the signatures. He touched the old seal with gentle fingers so it would not crack. Then he brought out a rolled water map, spread it flat, and matched the deed's words to the map's lines. He marked each point with the end of a pencil. The old cedar post, the flat rock like a door, the crooked willow above the clear pool. He nodded once. "The description matches the official map," he said. "May I ask where the duplicate came from?" Claire explained in simple words. Her cousin's husband used to file maps. He kept copies. He found a second deed that matched the one in the tin box. The registrar listened, neither hurrying nor doubting. He had that careful way that calms a room. "We will place both copies on record," he said. "A thing that lives in two places is hard to deny." Footsteps sounded in the hallway. A man in a neat coat walked in, tall and smiling as if the room belonged to him. Bram Crowell greeted the registrar by name, then lifted his hat to Clara and Jonah. "Good morning to all," he said, friendly on the surface. "I hear there is some confusion to clear. I do love a tidy book." Jonah did not answer at once. He let the registrar speak first. "We are reviewing a deed signed in the drought year," the registrar said. "It concerns shared use of the South Spring on Reed Ranch for a period of 10 years if freight was not paid on time." Crowell's smile held. "A harmless old story. The freight was forgiven. The drought brought many handshakes with soft hearts. No one here wants to tangle up kind years with hard papers?" Clara looked at him calmly. "Kind years begin with honest papers," she said. Her voice was steady now. "The ledger shows 24 loads of feed and seed carried when the earth was empty. The deed says water would be shared for 10 years if payment did not arrive. Payment did not arrive. The 10 years are almost done. Yet my father's name was called false." A couple of townsfolk had drifted in to post letters and stayed to listen. The minister appeared at the door, then the schoolteacher, then a grocer with flour on his sleeves. They stood in a gentle half-circle, not to judge, only to see. The registrar cleared his throat. "Mr. Crowell, would you like to review the papers?" Crowell lifted the ledger, flipped a few pages, and placed it down. He did not study the numbers. He looked at faces. He tried another smile. "Neighbors carry neighbors," he said. "This is how we lived through the drought. We did not count every load like coins in a jar." Jonah leaned on the counter in a quiet way. "We counted because counting saved animals and people," he said. "A ledger is not a trap. It is a map of help given and help due. My father signed the deed. He did not sign things he did not mean." Crowell's eyes cooled a degree, but he kept his voice smooth. "Will you call the town to watch you give away your water, Reed?" "I will call the town to watch us keep our word," Jonah answered. The registrar took a breath and spoke aloud so the room could follow each step. He read the deed clearly. He compared the map again. He explained the dates he would stamp and the order in which they would be filed. Then he looked to Crowell. "Sir, the proper action is to honor the deed until its 10-year term closes and to settle the unpaid freight recorded in the ledger. A short statement in plain language will help the town understand and will also clear the late Mr. Whitlow's name." Crowell's smile thinned. He looked from one face to the next. He took off his hat and put it back on. Then he said in a lighter tone, "People forget how weather looks in memory. They said lightning burned the reed barn, and it may be that wind made a small fire look large." Clara drew a careful breath. She had not planned to speak about the letter so soon, but something in the room felt ready for full light. She stepped forward. "It was not lightning," she said in an even voice. "My father wrote a letter before he passed. He went to warn Ezra Reed that false papers were coming. While they spoke, he knocked over a lantern by mistake. He tried to stamp it out, but the straw caught. Mr. Reed pulled him from the smoke and said they would call it lightning to keep peace. My father could not forgive himself. He kept silent because Mr. Reed asked for quiet. I speak now because silence is bending the truth again." No one moved for a long heartbeat. The minister placed his hand lightly on the registrar's shoulder. The schoolteacher, without a word, took a clean sheet and wrote a simple statement in firm strokes. Acknowledgement of the deed, agreement to share the South Spring until the term's end, settlement of the unpaid freight, and a note that cleared the name of the elder Whitlow. She slid the page across the counter and set a space for a signature. Crowell looked at the page. He looked at Jonah, who did not glare, and at Clara, who did not shrink. He looked at the townsfolk, who were not a crowd but a circle, quiet and steady. The kind of room where a man cannot lean on loud talk because there is none. At last he took the pen. He signed. The registrar added his seal, the warm press making a small, honest sound like a stamp on leather. It was done. A soft murmur rose in the hallway. Not a cheer, just the sound of many people letting go of a held breath. The grocer wiped flour from his hands and smiled at Clara. The minister nodded. The schoolteacher folded the signed page to place with the deed and ledger. The registrar reached for his book to write the official entry. He read it out loud, each word shaped carefully. The names, the dates, the term, the settlement, the filed copies. When he finished, it felt like the room stood straighter. Crowell set his hat on his head and left without a word. There was no anger in the hallway, only a sense that the pieces of a long-tilted picture had been set level. Clara thanked the registrar, the schoolteacher, the minister, and the grocer. She thanked Jonah last. She did not say many words. She did not need to. Her eyes were clear and calm in a way they had not been the night before. The weight she carried had found a place to rest. They walked out into the bright day. The town seemed new. Small things stood out, the shine of a pump handle, the creak of a porch step, the way two little girls shared a ribbon and laughed. Jonah bought 2 sandwiches from the cafe and gave one to Clara. They ate on the porch with their feet on the top step like old friends who had worked a long morning together. On the ride home, the sky opened wider. They stopped at the South Spring and sat under the crooked willow. Dragonflies stitched the air over the clear pool. The water moved in quiet lines that caught the light. Jonah spoke first. "I will put a simple trough here," he said. "One that draws clean and returns gently to the pool. We will fence the soft edge so young calves do not sink. We will mark the share line with posts that match the deed, not to divide neighbors but to show agreement." Clara smiled. "I know how to set a post straight," she said. "My father taught me with a string and 2 sticks. May I help?" "You may," Jonah answered. "You may help set the first and the last and all the ones between." They returned to the ranch and spent the afternoon gathering what they needed. Seasoned posts, a length of pipe, a level, and a coil of wire. The hired hands joined with easy goodwill after Jonah explained the plan. No one groaned at the work. Work that sets a map to match the land brings its own kind of energy. By evening, the first post stood in neat rhythm along the bank and the trough frame sat square. Jonah left the rest for morning. He believed in finishing well, not late. Clara washed at the pump and sat on the porch steps with a cup of water. She watched the color change on the hills as the sun dropped. The tin box rested on the table beside Jonah's chair. It looked smaller than it had that morning, not because the papers were less, but because the burden was shared now.